everyone, welcome to another Warcraft 3 audio commentary. This is going to be a 1 versus 1 game on floodplains on patch 1.29. So I'm going to be human in this replay and my opponent is going to be undead. So this map is, I think it's been around a while, though they might have changed it, but it was never in the, as far as I remember, it was never in the solo ladder pool until now. So it's it has 4 spawn points. The creeps are pretty interesting. There's a lot of trolls and ogres, some gnolls around, and in the center there's like murlocs and water elementals. So kind of an interesting sort of creep set. And there's dragons at the corners. But anyway, in this replay, I'm going to start out with a paladin, and my intention is to build up to a late game where I have like a level 3 or 4 paladin, and then just start harassing his acolytes brutally with Holy Light and Divine Shield. So yeah, that's going to require me to pretty much to creep up. There's no, there's not a really, it's not very easy just to level up on the opponent, especially with the paladin. Even if it is undead, I'd have to get very, very lucky to really start to snowball the paladin levels without just a lot of creeping. So that's what I do with footmen. I creep a lot. I'm going to get an arcane tower in my base. I start building a blacksmith out in the front of my base. This is a little risky, and I am going to get punished for this building placement. But in the meantime, I'm creeping. My opponent's got 4 ghouls. Death Knight, he's only level 1. No items except for Rotted Necromancy, and he is over halfway done with his tech. He's actually right about the same tech speed as I am, but I'm forced to cancel that blacksmith, so that's unfortunate. My army was really far away. I didn't exactly want to TP. I'd rather just finish this creep camp. I do get level 2 here, so I will have Divine Shield. And so yeah, now I'm trying to lure him to this tower. I'm not too scared of 4 ghouls. I mean, if he comes into my base, I can just call to arms, and I already have a footman there. So the militia should stand up fairly well to the ghouls, and he will stand to lose more than me. So he goes over here to scout, I guess. He sees I haven't crept this. There's not an expansion over here, so I'm not exactly sure what he's looking for. If he's going to check for an expansion, it would be this camp here. So we'll see if that's where he goes. I'm going to use Clarity Potion, and I stack up on Scroll of Regen and Clarity Potion, another one, because creeping, I'm going to use mana, but I don't want to, when I get level 3, I want to have enough mana to run to his base and just sort of do a lot of damage. And I come to this orange camp, and I haven't really explored this map, honestly, a lot, so I really was, this is, I want to say the first time I really sort of saw this creep camp, so I didn't know what to expect going into it, but it was nighttime, so I wasn't, it wasn't going to be too risky generally. So he's going to try to creep to level 2, but again, I'm creeping the larger camp. He sort of spent more time running around, I think, than I did, so I can probably, hopefully, hit level 3 on this camp. The big level 5 ogre mauler should get me quite a lot of experience, and it does, so we'll see if I get level 3 from this camp. Yeah, so for sure I will get level 3. And now I'm like, okay, level 3, I'm going to get Holy Light level 2. They did nerf the duration for Divine Shield. I don't know if it's at every level or just level 2 and 3. I forget, but the Paladin's movement speed is buffed, though, so that's pretty good. I should probably have activated Divine Shield running in there and just went right for the Acolytes. But I do see this Ziggurat sitting here, so I'm like, well, I'll cancel this, maybe mess up his timing a bit, and then I'll go go for the Acolytes. So it's really like one hit, and then level 2 Holy Light will insta-kill an Acolyte, an attack from the Paladin, that is, and then a Holy Light level 2, so I get another shot. So he's down, 2 Acolytes, he TP'd, I'm going to TP out, I lose a ghoul, I lose a footman here, and I lose a town portal, so it wasn't that big of a deal, but it is going to delay his tier 3 tech. I saw a Temple of the Damned, which is a little bit awkward. Not exact. I sort of would expect necromancy or necromancers out of that temple. If anything, though, it's still a little bit weird. Again, I already had 2 arcane sanctums going up. So in terms of unit choice at this stage, I'm thinking, okay, I've seen a Temple of the Damned. I was already sort of planning to go for Spellbreakers, though I did actually sort of think he might have transitioned to Fiends and Destroyers, but he's mostly going for Ghouls. So I'm actually going to throw some Sorceresses in there, knowing that he shouldn't be anywhere near Destroyers yet. So Sorceresses will do extra to Ghouls. He won't have Dispel, and I've left my army back in my main, and I've just got my Paladin running around because I can do a lot of damage with just the Paladin. I picked up a Potion of Lesser Vulnerability. I picked up a Staff of Teleportation. So, if I lose a couple of farms here, but I kill like all of his acolytes, that wouldn't be too big of a problem. Or if he has to waste another town portal, which it doesn't look like he actually has another town portal, so that's not exactly an option for him. So I'm going to run in and I'm going to activate Divine Shield here, a little late, but better late than never. And I start going in on his acolytes, and I kill them very quickly. And I call to arms, and I have one armor upgrade for all these footmen, militia, and spellbreakers. I've got a sorceress out, so I'm sort of, I don't have to concentrate too much on this paladin. His towers aren't really going to be that threatening, especially since I have level 4 now, Talisman of Evasion, plenty of hit points, and his army is not going to be faring that much better in my main base. Now, I'm actually, obviously, if I would have, been looking at my main base a little bit closer, instead of sort of splitting my attention, I probably could have lost 0 units here, I assume, but I don't really think I lost too many anyway. He might get this sorceress. Actually doesn't, so he's going to lose his Death Knight. He loses pretty much all of his units, and now I just staff out. I don't even use a town portal. So he's lost all of his acolytes. Let's see, in terms of resources, he got about 300 gold, but he spent that to revive his Death Knight, and I guess get some Necromancers. He's got to actually kill units to get those skeletons, or lose his own units. But in terms of cracking my base, his army just isn't going to be strong enough realistically to do it. I don't know if he had Sleep or Carrion Swarm. Carrion Swarm would be slightly more dangerous to my militia and stuff, but again, if I start massing Spellbreakers, Carrion Swarm is of course going to not do anything against those as they're magic immune. So he probably won't be doing that great with Carrion Swarm, honestly. So yeah, I decided to creep a little bit. I figure he's probably just sitting in his base. He has massed up towers. Again, if I wanted to go in there and kill some more acolytes, I could do it, but I decided to just go ahead and get level 5 first, and then go do that. So also I opened up a gold mine, so if I want to expand, which I think I do sort of send some peasants over here to expand at some point, but a lot of times I do actually like to stay on one base because even though I'm human, staying on one base allows you to tech quickly, and it also gives them fewer targets. While it's risky in some sense that if you sort of lose battles on one base, or if your opponent gets two gold mines going, you can very easily fall behind. Or like I said, if you lose one battle, it's harder sometimes to come back off of one base or to transition because you just don't have as many resources. But on the flip side, expanding offers a different sort of risk in that they can harass you a little bit earlier. They can push you a little bit. In the mid game, it's harder to field an army at certain timing windows. And then in terms of tech, if he gets out a bunch of destroyers, it's not going to matter maybe that I have like 3 or 4 towers at my expansion, and I'm with my tech behind, he might be able to just run me over there. So I go in there, I staff out. He surrounded me with ghouls, but I actually just staffed to this footman because I want to go back in there. I didn't do as much damage as I wanted to thanks to his pretty good surround. So I go back in there, I sacrifice his footman essentially, and just start busting his acolytes. There's nothing he can do. Even though they nerfed Divine Shield, it's slightly less obnoxious at level 2 and 3 than it was before. I'm not sure about if level 1 duration got nerfed, but it's a little bit less sort of just, annoying. But again, it still gives you a long time of invulnerability. And like you saw, if he can't surround my hero, I can just run in there. Or if he doesn't wall his gold mine off, I can just run in there and start dropping level 2 and 3 holy light on his acolytes. And again, what's his option? Just try to death coil me in the in the like tiny window after every attack? That's not really gonna not really going to happen. There's no travel distance for Holy Light. The cooldown is quicker. The mana cost is less. So that's not exactly realistic. So I engage his army. I've got 43 food. He's probably at like 30 something. Yeah, he's at 37 food. These tanks aren't really doing anything. I don't really want to send him into his base with all those towers alone, but so they're really just sitting here. So that's 6 food, not contributing. But again, look at it. His whole army is slowed. He doesn't have Dispel. I should have went for the Necromancers before these Ghouls, as they are going to give they are going to give skeletons for him to raise dead. I start to research control magic, but I don't think it finishes in time to steal any of this stuff. But even with the skeletons, I've got plenty of mana to heal, got a mana potion, so and the other thing is the duration. Like when their timer runs out, that's it. So all I have to do is just sort of outlast them. I don't even actually have to kill them if I don't want to, but but yeah, his army is just not really a threat here with no dispel. Only level 2 on the Death Knight, level 1 on the Dreadlord, no real mana to speak of. I think he had slow, yeah, or no, sorry, sleep. But yeah, he doesn't have level 2 Death Coil. He doesn't have Vampiric Aura. He doesn't have Carrion Swarm. So, this is just sort of easy for me. I went. One of the things I should note is right when the battle started, I immediately went for the statues because I had Spellbreakers. I'm not. I want to say that feedback does affect the statues, but they're mechanical, so that is a question mark. I'm not. The statues do have mana, so I would have thought, and I do think that they do extra damage to statues and get rid of their mana. Not 100% sure on that. Probably like 80% if I had to guess, in terms of my confidence in that. But definitely on Necromancers, they're going to kill those really quick. So the prioritizing statues, he cannot death coil a statue unless he morphs it into a destroyer. So they're not they're pretty good targets. They serve a very crucial point for the undead army. Part of it, healing 10 hit points every time they cast Touch of Blight to multiple targets. As many as 6. You can heal 60 hit points at a shot, which is is pretty good over the course of a long battle potentially. And then the other statue, of course, can do similar things for mana. Not quite 10, but the other point is they can turn into destroyers, which, if I have sorceresses, obviously I want him to have as few destroyers as possible. I didn't really have very much anti-air. The tanks potentially could have sort of did anti-air, but they're not going to be amazing against only like 1 or 2 destroyers, honestly. So I didn't want him to get Dispel. I didn't want him to heal. So, and that was like the one thing in his army that he couldn't sort of directly heal. The other one was the Death Knight. If I wanted to focus around the Death Knight, hit him with Holy Light, that would have been probably a good decision as well, since obviously, unless he's got Death Pact, which he did not, as he had Unholy Aura and Death Coil, then he should be, and no Town Portal, I think, should have been a very, very easy target. But again, I thought that game was a little bit amusing. I've been on the other end of that kind of troll solo paladin strategy with undead. Again, they did nerf Divine Shield, that part of the strategy, but they gave the paladin faster movement speed and attack speed. So while late game he is slightly less powerful in terms of Divine Shield, just having like complete immunity to run around, really. It wasn't like the buff wasn't, or the nerf wasn't that big of a deal, and it was mitigated a little bit by the paladin being a little bit more viable in the early and mid game with his faster movement speed. So that's but again, it's either way, it's still potentially very, very obnoxious when you as the undead player, if you don't wall your base, which sometimes is a little bit tricky to do. Then they can just stroll in there and just start, hammering the acolytes. And he had all those towers, but again, Divine Shield, it doesn't matter. I just walk right through it, ignore it. Divine Shield, I'm invincible. Potion of Invulnerability, I can do that while Divine Shield's on cooldown, and then he's gonna have a really short window to like really stop me. He's gonna have to get a surround, and then he's gonna have to hope that I don't just kill the ghouls, because I can, you know, just as easily focus down ghouls if he surrounds me. Even though I didn't really try to break out that one time he did surround me. I just staffed out. You know, it wasn't that big of a deal. But yeah, the strategy is very trollish. That was really the goal from the start. That's the reason I went for the paladin. That's the reason I didn't get a second hero. I wanted to get power leveled and you know, just over and over and over again disrupt his economy. It's much more effective also if during the sort of disrupting his economy part, I also throw up a fast expansion. But I didn't really do that here. But again, that's, you know, obviously if you can tie him up while you're expanding and then just sort of keep him, you know, on his side of the map or inside of his base, or trying to attack your main, you know, in a desperation move, then that's gonna, you know, most likely benefit you even more than just killing his acolytes would. So, but yeah, that's gonna be the end of this audio. Hopefully you found it interesting. Again, it's like, you know, it's definitely not the most ideal strategy. Is solo paladin, but it does offer, you know, it does seem to do okay against undead if everything else is sort of equal. He basically functions almost like a Death Knight. Now, not having a movement speed aura is a little bit of an issue, but since they sort of buffed up the paladin's movement speed, it's not quite as bad as it was before in the early game, like Death Knight against paladin. And on the flip side, I sort of prefer Divine Shield versus Death Pact. For one thing, it doesn't cost, you know, you don't have to kill a unit. I mean, Death Pact is a healing ability, and Divine Shield is a, you know, invincibility sort of skill. But yeah, you know, when you think about it, you might argue that Divine Shield only just, you know, refocuses their damage, but it also allows you to do things like you just saw me do. You know, if he wants to run in with a level 5 Death Knight, and even if he's got a lesser potion of lesser vulnerability, he's still going to have a very, very limited time in my base. Whereas if I get level 2 and 3 Divine Shield, you know, I've got all, and on top of that invulnerability potion, I can go in his base like all day and just, you know, go, you know, run right in there. No amount of towers is going to really make a difference if he doesn't wall his base. He can't, like, slow me, curse me, sleep, you know, all these stuff when I'm invincible. And, you know, if I use the potion before Divine Shield runs out, there's not going to be, like, a gap where he can, like, you know, sleep me, Death Coil, or whatever. There won't be a gap in there for him to do that stuff. So, you know, I can essentially have invincibility for a very extended period of time. And it doesn't really take that much time when you're sort of unhindered by the Nerubian Tower or the, you know, the Halls of the Dead or the Black Citadel attacks. Then, you know, it's you just run right in, and you know, they are they don't have very good options to save the acolytes. And the other thing is, they obviously, as acolytes, they don't, you know, they don't hide anywhere. Like, they don't go into the gold mine even for you know, a few seconds or like a second like the other races workers do. You know, like elf workers always in the gold mine. They're pretty safe. The entangled part. Orc workers can go into burrows. Human workers are, you know, they're almost as exposed, but they can turn into a militia for 4 extra armor, or, you know, the gold mine workers, you know, they're going in and out of the gold mine, so it can be a little tricky trying to focus those down. Unlike the acolytes, where they just have to run. You know, you can maybe make pockets in your base, which is actually something that's really good when you can pull it off. But again, the undead buildings are a little bit weird, you know, but you should try to do that, especially against like a human player, especially if you see a paladin. You gotta sort of plan ahead, or you start to fall into this nightmare situation where you're trying to block out the paladin, or if he catches you off guard, then you just don't. So, but that's going to be the end of this audio. Level 6 paladin doing some serious damage there. And ScryMind signing out.